From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, okay, but overwhelming. What does that mean? Did Mike Norvell send a message to the nation or his locker room? And who's not getting enough credit for blowing out Southern Miss? Wake Up Warchant is presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. That's in Tallahassee, Florida. You know that, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Come on out. Lunch specials Monday through Friday. Those are weekdays. From 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for only $8.99. You get yourself a half-pound Black Angus burger on Mondays. That's the daily lunch special. It's fantastic. It comes with straight fries or curly fries, potato salad. There's so many options. Freshly cooked potato chips, broccoli, side salad. Did I say potato salad? I meant side salad. But, you know, potatoes on my mind, Corey. I saw somebody, maybe First Lady of Wake Up Warchant, Stephanie, her daughter, I think eating like sweet potato waffle fries. Or was I imagining that?
No, they have them, and they're apparently really good.
Amazing.
I don't like sweet potatoes, so I don't. But I've heard
you don't like
great things
potatoes.
about them.
You just have your anti-potato.
I don't, but I love their fries.
Okay.
But they're straight fries. I haven't really had their waffle fries yet, but the straight fries are great. I had a hamburger on Sunday actually, watching some football. There it had a fried egg on it, Aslan.
Oh,
It had mushrooms, and it was as tasty as always.
My man. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Don't forget tomorrow, 7 o'clock Tuesday, trivia night going down at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminoles sports source. Please hit that thumbs up if you're listening to us on YouTube. That'd be much appreciated. You don't have to hit it right now. We'll earn it, I think, throughout this program, so you can wait, but at some point hit it. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to Warchant.com. If you're a member, you can obviously get involved in the Ask Ira Anything, Ask Cora Anything, or Corey. I'm just slipping up here. I'm just coasting on the laurels now. This Florida State football team. Yeah. I'm like they're blowing everybody out. I can do whatever I want. People are going to listen to this show regardless. But we're still going to bring the heat. I promise. Subscribe to Warchant.com. If you get involved in the over/under contest we have for each game, you can win a $25 gift card to Garnet and Gold, and you get weekly specials to Garnet and Gold just for being a member anyway. So self-pays for itself practically. It's worth its weight in gold being a member of Warchant.com. All right, Corey, let's get to it. Florida State now 2-0. 66-13 victory over Southern Miss. You and Ira spoke about it. I titled the Vitamin Energy Warchant wrap, certain lower third graphics I'd put throughout the show, give us some production value. And I was like, decent but dominating. That's kind of how it sums up the night to me. We can dive into it as much as you want, but on the whole, again, Florida State did not look particularly crisp or amazing for 4 quarters. Neither did they last week in Orlando. But again, just being productive, being explosive, and when they have a foe that doesn't have maybe the horses that an LSU does, they're going to win 66-13. What does it mean that they were able to look just decent but still dominate?
I think we should specify that. You're talking about the offense. I thought the defense was great.
Yes.
I thought the defense was great throughout. I looked at the PFF, and like we've talked about, I kind of look at it just for snap counts. But I think none of the starters were in the top 7 or 8 for plays in that game. Like Jared Verse played 21 snaps. Fabian Lovett played 12. Fisk was 19. I think Edwin Joseph might have had the most on the team. Blake Nicholson was up there for the most on the team. The point being, when the starters were out there, and they were substituting liberally even before the game was completely out of reach.
50 guys recorded a snap.
That's incredible. And then go look on the offense. It's almost the same on the offense. It's nuts how many people played. But the defense
44,
overall.
Sorry,
how many?
44 on offense.
So 94 players played in that game.
Yeah.
Plus the kickers. So, man, that's crazy. So he played 100 kids in that game. But the point being with the defense, they dominated that game. Other than a personal foul on Patrick Payton, which I thought was a horrendous call. He was hitting the quarterback as he threw it. That extended one of their drives in the first half that ended up being their field goal. And then they blew a play where Akeem Dent actually hurt his hamstring. Other than that, the defense was impenetrable. And again, it's 2023, and Southern Miss does have athletes. So it's like, that's to be commended. I thought the defense on a short week, and you have an offense that is going to put up a ton of points. maybe not be that physical, maybe not be that aggressive, maybe not be that dialed in during the week to have the game plan completely owned and locked in like that. But I thought they were incredibly impressive, and I hope people appreciate Fuller and his coaching staff for what they did this week. I know it was Southern Miss. I know there's a lot of bigger tests to come, but that's a really nice statement for that defense to do that. But, yeah, on the offense, man, it does say something that I thought the passing game was C- at best, and you scored 66 points. Or if you take away the Jarian pick six, you only scored 59 points. You punted once, I think, when it mattered. That's crazy.
Let's stick with defense. That was part of the open there where I was saying who's not getting enough credit for the blowout.
Oh, all right.
I think that's the defense, right? Because you need possessions. You need good field position to get blowout victories, right?
Yes.
That's what the defense did. And the fact that, I think if you look at maybe the first 2 quarters and that first drive or so where they had those first team guys in their core, I think it might have been 75 yards, like legitimately 75 yards of offense they allowed to a competent Southern Miss team. That's, again, that's probably not going to be enough to convince the people that are still very leery of Adam Fuller and this defense. But I think it shows that, when you can dominate and impose your will, because there was nothing decent or okay about the defense. The defense was completely on point. That's got to be encouraging for you folks that are even skeptical at this point, I'd hope.
Yeah, and again, there's more tests coming. So nobody's doing cartwheels and handing him a 5-year extension off these first 2 games. But, the starting defense going back to, I think, I just wrote the story, so it's on the War Chant right now as you guys are listening to this. Since LSU's 5th drive of the game where they scored a touchdown, the starting defense has been on the field for 13 drives and has given up 6 points, 2 field goals. 2 field goals, 2 interceptions, 2 turnovers on downs, and 5 punts. 13 drives without a touchdown being allowed, the starting defense, going back to LSU's 5th drive of the game. And they've given up 2 touchdowns total, and I'm going to guess whatever that would be, 18 drives total. 18 drives total, they've given up 2 touchdowns. If that's the way they're going to play all year, this team's going to win the national championship. Like, legitimately, right? Because this offense is going to it's not going to score 66 every week, right. But as long as the quarterback's healthy and the receivers are relatively healthy and you don't lose any more dudes on the offensive line, those are all big ifs, I get it. This offense is going to score 35 on just about everyone, at least. So if this defense can be giving up a touchdown once every 6 drives, this is going to be the best team in the country. And so, again, I would say I know it didn't start off well against LSU, but since that second touchdown that LSU had, since that moment and that stupid draw they allowed right before the half, since that play, really, let's just say it, since that play where they allowed the 35-yard run on a 3rd and 10 draw with 40 seconds left, they've been incredible. Nobody can run on them. Again, 2 games, I get it. Southern Miss barely even tried in the first half because they knew what was going to happen. LSU barely tried because they knew what was going to happen. If you can't run on this defense, you're in real trouble. So I think that's really, really encouraging, man. I've been very, very excited with what the defensive line has looked like overall. And I like the DBs, man. They played well. They competed. Lord knows the Southern Miss DBs competed on Saturday night, but I thought the Florida State guys did too. In that defensive line, they're just rotating in so many guys where, again, Jared Verse, and by the way, I know Jared Verse didn't have a sack. I don't even know if he had a tackle. That guy is killing folks. He is really, really hard to block. On Jarian's pick six, Jared is hitting the quarterback as he throws it. He's getting in there about a second and a half after every time the quarterback catches the ball. He was really good on Saturday night. I didn't look how many pressures he had, but he only played 21 snaps. So I think he's got 5 or 6 pressures this season. It hasn't played a ton. And he's played, those are 2 really experienced offensive lines they went up against. Obviously, LSU's is better than Southern Miss, but I think Jared Verse has played well, and that whole defense, man, has just been since late in the second quarter has been lights out.
I haven't seen that from Jared, to be honest with you. He had 2 pressures on 18 pass rush snaps. I am not concerned at all about it, but I think that's encouraging to me, is that they are rotating everybody. They do look this disruptive up front, and Jared's not necessarily – I don't see him necessarily wrecking plays left and right.
But you know what he's doing
But that play that you point out, though, to Jarian, I saw that happen live. I'm like, come
Yeah.
on, Jared, give me something here. And he was like pushing the tackle into the quarterback and got his hand involved in there. So
And that's what he was doing. And look, they're going to play much better quarterbacks than that kid on Saturday night. He was a walk-on at Clemson that transferred. Maybe he'll have a nice season. I don't know. I wasn't all that impressed with him. But what he was doing a lot was fading backwards. The quarterback was. And that's natural when you see one of the defensive both tackles, and then Jared Burris at defensive end continually pushes the tackles into quarterback's feet. So he's not necessarily making the game-changing sacks yet, but he is impacting the pocket in a way that makes these quarterbacks really, really uncomfortable. It makes them roll out. Jane Daniels had some runs, but makes them maybe roll out into other sacks. So you look at Burris, if he, I don't know, a tenth of a second more, he sacks that Southern Miss quarterback yesterday. But it worked out well, or Saturday night, because it worked out to be a pick six. And then he was a millisecond away from a strip sack against Jane Daniels. Like, he's close. He's good. He's been fine. And think about how good the defense has played these last, 13 drives, where Burst isn't necessarily wrecking things with production.
Exactly.
That's really, really encouraging again, because it's coming. It's coming.
VitaminEnergy.com. Use the promo code WarChampBOGO. That means buy one, get one free when you go to VitaminEnergy.com. Try out their variety pack. Shout out to our guy Caleb. Hopefully his Vitamin Energy Super Shot Value Variety Pack shows up here soon and give us another testimonial to add the pelts to our growing collection of people.
Oh, yeah. My friend Spencer just told me on Sunday that he ordered some Vitamin Energy.
There we go.
I told him he's going to love it.
All right, there we go. The Immune Plus. There's the B12 14,000. Obviously, the Workout Plus, Focus Plus. So many different varieties, so many different flavors, different vitamins in each of these varieties. It's energy with benefits. It's Vitamin Energy. Again, go to vitaminenergy.com. Use that promo code WarChampBOGO to buy one and get one free. Shake it and take it. vitaminenergy.com. All right, let's dive into the offense here then, I guess, a little bit, Corey, right?
All right.
Looking at these grades, I don't want to dive too much into. I feel like we didn't see the best out of Johnny Wilson on Saturday. Kind of.
You don't think?
Safe to say that?
Yeah.
But again, they still end up, getting 66 points. And Jordan
could have had 80.
Yeah.
Literally could have had 80.
So how do you assess the way the offense played despite, as you said, kind of like a C effort through the air? They still were able to move the ball and get points. I mean, how do we square that up, I guess?
I thought Jordan was fine. Again, fine. His standard is a different standard than most. Those fourth down plays he made, one on the scramble and the other one, I mean, that's just ridiculous. I legitimately felt bad for the Southern Miss guys.
I did too.
Like, what are we supposed to do, Coach? Yeah, I have an angle on him. He just races 20 yards further back. What am I supposed to do? And then he flips it to Toafili for a first down, and then he runs himself for a first down. That's just a magician doing magical things. You can't do anything about that. I thought the receivers were awful by their standards.
I'm going to push back on it, but carry on.
But it wasn't just Johnny. Keon had two chances at 50-50 balls, dropped them both.
I shouldn't say dropped them. Come on.
Didn't drop them. But look, you're special guys. You go make plays. And the point of the matter is Jordan's given you a chance. Like, that's what Jordan's doing. So they look like incompletions, but I don't think he threw a ball in the second half. So he had 14 incompletions in the first half. I would say 9 of them were 50-50 balls that weren't caught or just straight up drops. That's not great. Now, Johnny was horrible. And that's something we need to talk about later because I don't want to focus on that too early because they scored 66 points. And I do like to enjoy wins because we didn't get to do this a lot the last few years. So this is fun. I don't want to just start hand-wringing so early in the show. But I guess I'm doing that with the receivers anyway. I think if the receivers had played to their capability, let's put it. And again, when I say awful, they weren't awful. They were not very good by what my standards are for them. Hakeem had a chance to make a 50-50 catch, didn't. Deuce did. Keon had 2. Johnny had 3 or 4. They dropped all of them. Now, Deuce made a nice catch on a third down on the first drive. That was really good to see. You also see the speed we're talking about with that kid on the reverse. Holy moly. Yep. That kid can be a weapon. And it's awesome to see Darian Williamson making plays. He had a great third down. He made probably the best catch of the game, I thought, by an FSU receiver. Not the best play. That was Keon hitting the trampoline. But the best catch I thought was a third down catch where he kind of went low over the middle. It was kind of behind him. And he made a really good – that was good to see, man. So he's stepping up. Deuce Spann is becoming more of I guess, a factor than we thought. But I just thought overall, if the receivers had played well, Jordan would have thrown for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns.
I mean, they literally have a drop stat on here, like drops.
Right.
They didn't credit any Florida. How is that even –
Right.
Come on,
Again,
guys.
you keep using PFF. We're going to have to veer away from it.
We're going to have to veer away from
Because
it.
Jaheim – and look, Jaheim had a drop on the very first play that didn't count because it was an offsides anyway.
Right.
But that was a terrible drop. First play of the game. He's wide. That's a 20-yard gain probably, at least. Hell, he might have scored. And he just flat out drops it. Johnny's drops are weird because we all know what a Johnny Wilson drop looks like typically. Hits off his hands. The two that I had that were like I thought were out-and-out drops, he caught the ball, and then as he came to the ground knocked it out, which isn't good. Don't do that. But hold on to it, big guy. But, yeah, I mean, again, I wouldn't credit any of it. I wouldn't say Keon had a drop. But I would think if you ask Keon, both of those plays he thinks he should make. They're 50-50 balls.
I mean, he pulls himself to that standard, but again,
yeah.
Some of it was really good coverage. I think one of them he was
and credit
on the
to you're
sideline,
right. Credit to the Southern Miss DBs too, because they did fight and they ripped at the ball. I just, when you get into these tougher games with these better DBs, I just want to see them. I want to see what I saw on against LSU, man. But maybe the Southern Miss DBs are better than LSU's, and that's not a joke.
Yeah,
like those LSU corners didn't fight at all. Now it was good for these FSU receivers to get that kind of competition where they probably thought they had those catches, they were ripped away, and now you have some stuff to work on as you get ready for the rest of the season.
Am I being naive to not – I'm not concerned about any of this stuff. Like,
No.
I think Johnny will work through it, and I know there's some people tweeted at us, this is all fine when you're doing against Southern Miss, but, you can't do this against other teams. Like, I get it, but it's week 2.
Yeah.
You could literally – I don't think you could compose a better schedule than what Florida State has this year, too, for just going through the normal ebbs and flows of a season, right? You're going to go to Boston College this weekend. It's almost like a dress rehearsal to get ready to go to Death Valley and play Clemson, who certainly looks vulnerable. Then you have an off week. You come back home for a month, seemingly. I mean, they're going to find their footing here soon enough. Like, wake me up when they start looking and kicking them, they're playing with their food against, like, Duke and Miami. Then it's a concern when we're talking deep into October. But right now it's – look at the scoreboard, everybody. And I know it's a very small minority that are quibbling over these sort of things, and they're probably not even panicking. But like, I don't know if you're here to feel skeptical energy. Can't bring it, folks. I can't act that way.
No, and me either. My point was,
and I don't think you are. I wasn't trying to say you were, Corey.
But think about what that offense did. Where again, I wouldn't say the receivers did any better than a C-, in my opinion. They lost. I don't know. They won a 50-50 ball. Which it's called 50-50 for a reason. You should win half of them. I think they lost all of them. And they still put up 66 points. Meaning, when the receivers play better than that, and they will. And also, Jordan had a touchdown to Deuce, and he threw the ball too short. Now, Deuce still could have caught it. Would have been nice if he caught it. But Jordan's if he leads them, it's a walk-in touchdown. So Jordan, the ball placement wasn't incredible all the time. But I just thought, his receivers – didn't do him a ton of favors like they did in the first game, but it's game 2. Yeah. And when it comes to Johnny, look, man, what concerned me at all, and certainly the game didn't matter. And I mean, him not being good and him not having a catch in the game clearly didn't matter. They won by 53 points. He is the guy in that receiving core, other than number 4, he's just unlike anything else. And I do think, even though you like what you see out of 21 now, and Deuce is making plays, and Hakeem is coming on, Van Dravius, 1-catch touchdown. Our man Destin finally had his first catch. Winston Wright made plays. Like, they have a nice receiving core, a good receiving core. But to reach what I think their ceiling is, the 6'7"
Condor
monster on the outside is something that just nobody can prepare for or simulate or clearly cover. And he always gets open. It's just a matter of him fighting himself. And what was concerning to me, if you're going to be concerned at all in a 53-point win, and like I said, you probably shouldn't at all, is, I will say what I see. And what I saw was after his fourth drop, quote unquote, he didn't play again. And when the offense was huddling at midfield between on those, incessant and interminable TV timeouts, there's the whole offense is surrounding Atkins and Norvell or Johnson. They're all in there talking about the series, talking about the play. Johnny Wilson's standing at the back of the huddle with the walk-ons. He's not engaged at all. At all.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, he's not on the field when the second half starts. And then when he does show up on the field, he's in shorts and a T-shirt. I don't know what that means. Norvell was kind of weird about him in the postgame. I thought he was going to talk about an injury or something, but then he didn't.
I thought he hinted at it, though, no?
I thought he did,
Yeah.
but then I went back and listened, and I wasn't sure. You guys can go watch and see for yourself. But, again, I think to reach the ceiling that this team can get to, 14 is going to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
And was that just a blip? Which we all hope it was, and I'm not making too much of it yet because it's game 2 and they just won 66-13 and they're averaging 55.5 points per game. But was that a blip or was that something to be concerned about? I think we'll know more this week because you got Clemson in 2 weeks. Yeah. I don't know that you can go in there and roll over Clemson or even win the game if Johnny doesn't make a special play or two. Well, no, yes, you can.
Yeah,
but it certainly would help to have that big old comfort security blanket on the outside on 3rd and 9 where you can just throw it up to him and he gets 25 yards. That is a nice luxury to have. And you hope that Jordan still has him moving forward because obviously Keon Coleman is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't want to play pop psychologist here, but I do wonder how this is affecting Johnny having some struggles and then seeing Keon really living up to expectations and seemingly thriving and how that's going to maybe affect him. And it's one thing to say all the right things, like, hey, man, I'm glad he's here. He's going to make my life easier. But then when you see maybe somebody kind of maybe moving a little bit further along than you are, some of your friends might be more successful than you are. And sometimes you might look at that in a different sort of lens or prism. But I would think that the team concept here is rock solid. So it won't.
I do too, right? I don't get that impression from Johnny.
Yeah.
Johnny, to me, strikes me as a very good kid and a very selfless kid. Like there were games last year where he had 1 or 2 catches and he was still blocking like a madman outside. Yeah. I just think he's a big part of this offense moving forward against better competition because that's just something the Clemsons, the Miamis, the Dukes, I guess, and then if you get to championship level games, those teams, they might have answers for Deuce Spann or Darian Williamson or Winston Wright. Nobody has one for Johnny Wilson when he's playing well. That's like a feather in your cap. That's an ace up your sleeve that nobody else in the country has. So you just want to make sure he's right when it matters.
So I think it's the 3rd drive for Florida State in the first quarter. Corey, they end up going for it on 4th down 3 times in one single drive.
Yeah, how about that?
Including Jordan's absolutely mesmerizing scramble.
Yeah.
Just a complete, absolute, gorgeous, just heart-wrenching thing if you're a Southern Miss fan.
Right.
And then they proceed in the first quarter to then kick an onside kick. So
yeah.
Is that a message to the nation? Was that a message to the locker room? To me, to continue to play pop psychologist here, Corey, not being a father, but I imagine there's certain moments that Brady is capable of doing better than what he's doing, and you might be you have to kind of poke and prod him along, and you're like,
sure,
I know I've seen you do this. Do it better. And I feel like, again, man, it was their 3rd drive. I think the previous drive, they came away without any points, which apparently is unforgivable and unacceptable to Mike Norvell. So I feel like this was much more, that aggression I thought was much more about saying, like, I know who you guys are. I know how talented you are. I see it every day in practice. We have to perform at a certain level of urgency and ruthlessness to be our best, more so than him trying to, like, put the future opponents on notice that they're just going to be freewheeling and wild on 4th down.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there was a message there. I think it was, I'm taking this game seriously. I'm aggressive. I'm balls out. Balls with a Z, everyone.
Yeah,
Come on, It's a family show.
Right.
But I'm going to be balls out in this game. I'm going to coach like I'm coaching my last game, and I want you to play like it even though we're 31-point favorites. I think there was a message there. I also think it's darn smart. Like, what if they don't go for those 4th downs, Aslan? What's the score at halftime? 17-3?
Yeah, probably
maybe
somewhere around there.
Like, you don't have to punt, gang. And I was thinking about this, and again, I'm not trying to take a shot at your guy while he's down, but if Jimbo's the coach in those situations, I think all of those are punts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe he goes for it one time, but I think all of those are punts. And they all made sense from my point of view, except the last one. I was even being like, what's he doing here? The one that was when it was 28-3, the ball's at midfield. It's 4th and 6, I think. And I'm like, why don't you just punt and go into the locker room up 25 points? Because the only thing that you could not get this, you give them the ball at midfield, they somehow luck into a touchdown before half, and then they get the ball to start the second half. Something goes wrong there. Well, now you're kind of in a game. The only way they were going to be in a game there is you not picking up that 4th down. But even then, it wasn't, obviously, clearly in hindsight, it wasn't going to matter. But I liked it. I loved it. I think that's what you do when you have a veteran offense. I think that's what you do when you have a great offense. Again, we've talked about it. You're not guaranteed of 15 possessions anymore. I guess that game you were, but most of them you weren't. So 4th and 4 around midfield, that's green light, man. Go. You got Jordan Travis. Go. And so, yeah, I like that, but I did think it was a message like, yeah, I'm not punting. I think he was mad at his offense because they weren't good on 3rd down. I think he was mad at his receivers, but I think he also wanted to prove to his players that he wasn't here just to go through the motions. He wanted to put it on them. He wanted to stay aggressive because he expects them to be aggressive. And obviously the message was received.
Be aggressive, but responsibly aggressive when you go to mybookie.ag and use the promo code WARCHANT for your instant cash deposit bonus. Shout out to our guy Island Chief, member, Renegade Express participant, avid listener. Apparently he laid some money on the Seminoles. Took some of our advice maybe at
the money line? Did
No.
he bet the money line? Oh.
What do you mean money line?
Like, I didn't know if he bet the money line on Florida State for the Southern Miss game, and he won like 35 cents.
No, he bet Florida State to win the national title. Like a bold,
okay.
brave, aggressive man.
All right,
And
okay.
turns out they are already offering you to cash out with a profit right now.
No lie, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
So if
Noles,
you
okay.
Yeah. But crazily enough, they're still only plus 1150 to win it all. Texas has better odds. Ohio State's got better odds. Michigan and Georgia. So their next game is definitely winnable. The one after that I think is also winnable, and subsequent games as well. So maybe you want to get in on it a little bit early. I can't believe it's still plus 1150. It might change by the time you're listening to this program, everybody, but I'm looking at it. It says plus 1150 for Florida State to win the national title. You can bet on that. You can bet on the NFL. It is back after all. If your survivor pool's gone, well, just go week to week over on MyBookie. Just use that promo code WARCHANT when you sign up for the first time. You'll get an instant cash deposit bonus. MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Corey, you and Ira discussed this on the Vitamin Energy War Chant wrap, and I want to give you some room to explore on this one as well, give you some space. But we listed earlier on in the show about how many different guys played, and obviously it's great to get all these guys live action, have them out there, but the fact that they were able to still hold Southern Miss at bay mostly, I mean, so they kind of moved the ball a little bit there relative to obviously what the first unit was doing. But this offense continued to make plays, brought Glenn out there scrambling around like he's Charlie Ward, and Marqueson breaking off tackles and going nuts, and Van Dravis, et cetera, et cetera. Harkens to a certain time in this program's history and past where they're able to continue to overwhelm a game opponent even with their depth. I don't want to compare apples to apples. I don't think it's apples to apples, but what do you take away? How pleased are you when you're able to see Florida State throttle a team like this and then see maybe the next guys in line perform quite admirably and well?
Yeah, I mean that's how you build and sustain programs. Like the work that Nicholson, Edwin Joseph, Conrad Hussey, the work they got in that game is invaluable, man. Like, it's great to do it in practice, really, truly. But doing it on a field where there's another team trying to score on you, proving to yourself that you can, and you don't have that bad taste of one play, 75 yards, like you did against LSU. But that's just how you build programs. You let these guys come in, and they're not going to dominate fourth quarters. I thought the second team defense, quote unquote, played very well. The third team defense, there were walk-ons that I had never seen before out there. Or maybe I just hadn't paid attention to. I didn't know their names that were out there for a good portion of the fourth quarter. But those other guys, those second team guys that get 25 reps or 30 reps, that's how you build a program. And they held up quite well. I thought they were really impressive. Obviously, the offense in the second half did whatever it wanted. It could have scored 20 more points if it wanted to. But the defense, I thought, did really well by the standards of Southern Miss. Kept their starting offense out there kind of the whole game. And you still, you allowed some first downs, you allowed some yardage, but they scored 10 points on essentially your third string. And what that means, again, I don't think this is a one-year anomaly where it's like, okay, next year the depth isn't going to be like this. But it did but I don't know if it'll continue to build like this because these guys are going to play. I don't know who'll be behind them, yada, yada, yada. But this year in particular does remind me of like a 97, 98, 99 type team where you take your starters out, the guys behind them are hungry, they want to prove, and they keep putting it on a defense that just can't compete with them. And again, Florida State's second string is so good in some areas that they're as good or better than Southern Miss's first string. Some by a wide disparity. That's really good, man. That's really, really pleasing to see. It's been a minute since Florida State could run out subs like that in the second half. Like literally Jordan Travis played 3 plays in the second half because they went up 38-3 on the Benson long run, then the pick 6, and that was the end of the night for the first team offense. So again, Jordan didn't throw a pass in the second half, and they still did what they did and put up 21 more points after that. That's old school stuff, man. That's what Florida State used to do to basically every team in the ACC when they played. And I remember going to games back then. I've talked about this with Jeff Cameron a lot, where we would stay in the fourth quarter just to see the new guys and what they looked like. Like I'm sure some people stayed in that game on Saturday night to see Brock Glenn, to see Vandrevius Jacobs, to see Destin Hill maybe catch a pass, to see Biscuit, although Biscuit doesn't count. He's proven himself.
You stuck around at the choke at Doak to watch. Like you're like, this game's
I wanted
over.
to see the kid Busby.
Yeah.
What's he got? Take Cannell out. Let's give Busby a few series there at the end to see what it's like. So that to me is where you're starting to make real strides. But obviously the scoreboard told that story. And again, I just want to bring it up because we haven't talked about it nearly enough, or at all, frankly, in this show. 2 years ago, the second game of the season.
I don't want to talk about it,
Corey. No, but I want to appreciate it because I know we're about to dive in to chasing a championship. And we're going to hand-wring about Johnny Wilson here, or the defense giving up some plays against Boston College, or maybe a close game at Clemson that goes either way. Whatever happens, I want to appreciate that we are now talking about the number 3 team in the United States. The number 3 team in the United States, where 2 years ago we wondered if they would win one game. If they would win more than one game. And then here we are, the number 3 team in the country with a Heisman contender, Keon Coleman doing craziness, Jared Verse, people we never heard of 2 years ago. Our stars on this team, and Jordan Travis is a legitimate Heisman candidate, and maybe this team is awesome. Like awesome. Certainly it's proven the resume looks good after 2 weeks with 2 huge blowout wins, and I want to embrace that, man. I want to enjoy it because after what we went through for 4 years, I swore to myself, if it ever happened again, I'm not going to sit here and hand-wring about this and that. And then I started out the first 15 minutes of my show. And it is my show, Aslan. Thanks for being a part of it. Our show, talking about how I didn't like what I saw from the receivers. And I just want to be like, look, man, the talent is this. The roster has been flipped in a way that you might have one of, if not the best rosters in the United States. And holy moly, is that fun. Now go beat Boston College or I'm going to rip you, Norvell.
They are ranked 3rd now in all the polls. This is after Texas went into Tuscaloosa and pretty much, earned.
Kind of handled them, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy to say that and see that, but it happens. So now Georgia's 1, Michigan's 2, Florida State's 3.
Which is fair, I think, on all accounts there.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's the difference between being 8th and 5th and 4th, but I don't know. It feels a little bit different. I mean, listen, I believe I said this was like a playoff or bust type of year, but when you realize like if it all ended right now, like you are in that playoff, and obviously there's 10 more games and then a championship weekend to determine it. So plenty more left to go. But like I don't know, did that go into? I know you probably you obviously wrote your column after the game and before the polls came out, but I don't know, seeing like the nation maybe take notice now? Does that also make this that much more special for you, or at least wanted to throw that word around special when it comes to talking about this team?
You know what I saw was the bottom line on ESPN when I got home at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh.
Thanks a lot, 8:30 kickoff. That was great.
8:40.
I apologize. Couldn't. Yeah. And even then, the people at home couldn't watch the first 5 minutes
Come on,
of the game.
Mac, figure it out.
Good Lord, Mac, get a kicker, man. So yeah, I get home, and on the bottom line of SportsCenter, it says, what does it say? Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State roll. And just think, again, just reading that, it warms your heart. Yeah. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Florida State roll. And it's cool. I am so impressed with what they did Saturday night on the whole, especially defensively. To come out there and look like that on a short week, I just think that says so much about what this team can be, the maturity. Obviously, they have talent, and they have depth now, maybe more depth than I even realized. But the maturity to just treat that like a real game, and to be ready, to be locked in. I mean, I think there were a couple of busts total. One was on the play where Akeem pulled up lame, and that's going to be something to monitor here for the weeks ahead. And then, there was one where they would have had a walk-in touchdown on a blitz if the quarterback would have gotten it out there, but he didn't, and they kicked the field goal instead. Other than that, man, I thought they were great. They were really physical at the point of attack. They couldn't run at all. They didn't even try with Frank Gore's kid, who's got 3,000 yards rushing in his career and had, 20 in that game. It's really encouraging, man. I know Texas probably has the best win of the season because they went into Alabama. I don't even know that. Beating LSU like Florida State beat LSU, I think is probably still the best win of the season. But two games together, I can't imagine being more impressive than what Florida State has done. It's just like we said last year. Remember that stretch of the 4 games in a row? It's not normal to beat teams like this anymore.
Yep.
It's certainly not normal on 6 days rest when they're treating it like their Super Bowl, and they have real experience, some serious SEC transfers, and they look like a high school team against you.
And they know you. Like their head coach knows Norvell.
And had no chance. It was a complete mismatch, even more so than a 31-point spread would indicate. It was a bigger mismatch than that. They just took their will. And they stepped on their throats when they had the chance, which is what good teams do. And it's what this team learned to do, I think, last year. It had a couple of flubs there at the end defensively, but it has come out after that 5th drive against LSU and been really good defensively. And if they can just be good defensively, again, this is probably a championship team.
Look at that, everybody. Corey's coming around.
It's been – they haven't even been – they were not crisp at all on Saturday night offensively, Aslan.
They weren't.
And they scored 66 points.
Oh, man. LSU's 14th in both polls. North Carolina 20th, Duke 21st, Miami 22nd, and the AP Clemson out. According to the writers. Coaches, though, got Dabo at 22nd, Miami at 23rd, North Carolina 18th, Duke 20th. So if you're looking down the line in terms of quality wins, but at this point when you're that high, keep doing what you're doing. Other guys in front of you might fall. If not, you're going to hold the course and you'll be fine. I'm trying to think if there'd be any point that Florida State maybe jumps these teams.
No, I don't know.
Georgia's got to go to Auburn.
No, they'd have to lose. I don't know that you're going to jump them without a loss.
Oh, right. But I'm just saying, I don't, Hugh Freeze on the Plains could be tricky. Haven't watched a single minute of them play football this year. I know they barely eked out a win against Cal this past weekend, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. Meanwhile, Michigan, they've, maybe going to East Lansing and Michigan State, although they're a complete mess right now.
Yeah.
So wouldn't put that on there. But, yeah, they got to go to Penn State. And they obviously have Ohio State at the end of the year. But I was just trying to think, like, maybe I wonder if there's, like, people out there trying to think, like, when is Florida State going to be ranked number 1 at some point this season before, the national title game figures all that stuff out? I don't know. Wouldn't be surprised, though, at this point. Because, again, I just think the schedule just has worked out in such a favorable way. It's incredible.
Well, it has, but then I've seen some things the last 2 weeks where you're like, I would have thought Miami would be easier than this. And Duke too. And I think those are going to be real games. Those are going to be tests. Miami was very impressive, I thought, in that game. Their receivers are good, and Van Dyke looks like the kid from 2 years ago. which again, if you pressure him, which Florida State should be pretty good at that, I still think you have an advantage. I still think you're double-digit favorites against both of those teams as these rosters are currently constructed, injury and health-wise. And it also sounded like maybe the safety was okay for Miami.
Oh, was he? Okay, that's
yeah.
that was
Cristobal
scary,
said
man.
that after the game that they were getting good updates from the hospital. So hopefully it was just a concussion. I mean, that was a really scary looking injury, and he's a really good player. But yeah, I don't expect that game to be maybe the cakewalk. It's certainly not what it was last year, because I think if Van Dyke's healthy, that's a difference maker, and I think they're going to be good offensively. And A&M scored 2 of their touchdowns basically because of special teams.
Yeah.
So that was more of a 17 to 20 point win for Miami that it even looked. Maybe it was they kind of dominated that game, and they did really well. A&M's defense is no joke, and it was on Saturday. So that looks like a game all of a sudden. Duke looks like a game all of a sudden.
Miami will be a game. I don't think Duke will be, though.
And also, Clemson will absolutely be a game. I know they looked horrible to start that game against Charleston Southern, but it's Charleston Southern. They won by 50 points. They knew they would. I think that might be what separates somebody like I don't think Florida State is only up by a touchdown late in the second quarter against Charleston Southern. I think they're already up by 35 points.
Mm-hmm.
But talent for talent, I think Florida State is better than Clemson. And I think Florida State should win that game. I think Florida State will be favored as long as they look normal this week in Chestnut Hill. But that will be a hard place to win. That is a hard place to go win. You have to go prove you can do it before we just assume you can do it. And none of the guys on this football team, coaching staff, other than Odell Haggins, has ever won a game in Death Valley. I guess Dugans did too. Has ever won a game in Death Valley. So that is not going to be easy. I don't think Miami's going to be easy. We'll see about the rest of the schedule. But again, if Florida State plays at its ceiling, nobody's going to beat them.
Nope.
And I'm of the opinion now, Aslan, quite honestly. Again, I know we're 2 games in. I'm not trying to freezing cold takes myself. But if they play at their ceiling against anyone in the country, you're not scared of anyone.
No.
At all.
Nope.
You've got, if everything else breaks down, you've got Houdini at quarterback, and you've got one great receiver and another guy that can be great to go along with everything else that you've got. It's good to know you have that if everything else breaks down. It's just, you couldn't have asked for a more impressive start to the season, in my opinion. You knew they were going to be Southern Miss. Beating them by 53 on a short week is not normal, folks. That is something to be really excited about. And Boston College is another kind of test like that, right? Sleepy Nooner, 25-point favorites, a team that barely beat Holy Cross. You could go up there and sleepwalk and probably win that game by a couple scores. But are you going to do what you did last year? And when you, like what you did against Syracuse, outman team, you pummeled them. Miami was outmanned with Van Dyke not healthy. You pummeled them. Go up there and pummel someone on the road again. That is a really good sign, too.
And I like the way I think this all works out great, man, because the Clemson game will be the barometer. Because if they do what that team that we keep looking back fondly on did, then it is on.
Yeah.
And if they don't, it ends up being a dogfight and they still win, that's awesome. But then maybe we can chill out on some of the comparisons that people want us to go and cross those bridges. So, like, everything is lined up to where if you talk about this team on a podcast, you really couldn't ask for anything better. It's incredible. A couple other things on the way out, Corey. So our guy 5280 Osceola was watching the Vitamin Energy Warchant rap the other morning. I got to echo Corey Clark's idea of having Doak's lights out as Renegade and Osceola run and then have the lights come on once the spear gets planted. It's like 60-40 people are on our side. There's a lot of people that think this would endanger Renegade, which they're horses. They hang out outside at night all the time.
Yeah.
We can light it up like a runway. We're not saying like complete pitch dark, but like maybe put a spotlight on old boy and then a spotlight on the.
That's what I was thinking. It's like I didn't even articulate that during the Warchant rap. That's what I meant. Is like a spotlight is there, kind of following them.
Yeah.
Like they did for the national anthem. By the way, I thought the lights were cool. I liked everything about them. It made them brighter. I thought the uniforms popped better. It was cool. It was awesome during the national anthem what they did in there. I just think with the ability for those lights, you turn them off. except for the middle of the field. You have the spotlight on. Renegade comes, or maybe they're all off completely, and you just have the fire on the spear. Ooh. And you see. Well, then you want to see you don't want to just see the flame though. You do want to see the whole.
Yeah, the whole package, man.
The whole package. So you just have the light in the middle of the field. It's mostly dark. And then you play at the spear, the lights come on, everybody goes nuts. I think it would be cool, and you can practice. Like you got a key to the stadium, you got a key to the box where they control the lights. Get Renegade out there on a Tuesday night at 10:00 and practice with the lights, Aslan. But how many night games are they going to have at home?
I mean, that Miami is probably going to be a night game. Duke game might be a night game. I don't think Virginia Tech will be.
No, they lost to Purdue. Pretty disappointing loss.
Shout out to the rest of the conference, though.
Yeah.
And again,
Wake. How about Wake? I know you love your Wake.
I do.
And that's a big win for them.
No more
that's a
shots
nice win
at
for
Wake.
them.
No more shots at Wake.
I got you.
All ammo, everybody's directed at Syracuse and Boston College. Wake Forest was here before us. They're doing all right. They beat SEC teams here and there.
I would like to throw some shade at NC State too. They don't ever do anything.
Yeah. Well,
they beat Florida State.
Notre Dame earn it. They made Notre Dame earn it. Yeah, you're right.
They beat Florida State. That's all they ever do.
Yeah,
they don't do anything else for this conference and never have. And again, Florida State. I haven't updated it. NC State's been in the top 10, I think, twice in its history. Florida State is now at like 261 weeks, and NC State's at 2. Wake's at 2. But Wake is a small school in Winston-Salem with 4,000 kids that has no business being as good as it is. So you're right. They do more with less. It's just that they don't do anything for Florida State. They don't bring any money into the conference. That's why I get and plus they have a media member that I'm not too fond of. Yeah. But so I hand wring a little more about them than I should. But yeah, it's good for them. What a great start for the ACC too against the SEC.
Yeah.
Florida State beating LSU, Wake beating Vanderbilt. Who else? North Carolina beating South Carolina.
Correct.
I think there was another one.
There was another one that's slipping my mind right now. North Carolina. Yeah, you should say North Carolina beat South Carolina.
There's another one, but we'll figure it out. But yeah. Oh, but I did want to say, and I know I'm an old man shouting at a cloud. I don't care. I don't know who is in charge of when it comes to college football in general. Who do they bring in at a place like Doak to try to create atmosphere? Like that's a job, right? They don't just let some 21-year-old say, "Hey, you get to be the DJ today. What's on your playlist?" So there has to be a rhyme or a reason to it. There has to be somebody in control of it. Who is in control of it? Who made the decision to try to make it feel like an NBA game, where between every play there's 7-second snippet of a song? You're like, let the Chiefs play, man. Like, this is college football. It's not the NFL. You're not going to get – and my point being, I know it sounds like I'm old. There is nobody, 0 people, I promise you, if you're listening to this, Mr. Person or Mrs. Person that's in charge, there is nobody, not one single person that's going to say, you know what, I was thinking about going to the Florida State Miami game, but, man, they don't play any music in between plays. So I'm going to stay at home and listen to my phone. Like, there's nobody there's nobody that thinks like that. They are there to watch the game and to enjoy being at a college football game. That's what they're there for. 6 seconds of even flow is not – and by the way, I actually love the music choices for the most part. I thought they were great. Pearl Jam's never been played at Doak. That was historic. But it's 6 seconds of a song, and it just reminded me of when I'm watching an NBA game and Trae Young's dribbling the ball up the court after a made basket, and they're just playing, a Run DMC. And so I don't understand whose decision was that, and why are you doing that? But also, I just like to complain, and that's what I figured I would complain about. Also, get rid of the punting stats on the big video board. Yeah. Don't need them.
The other ACC victory was Mario beating Jimbo. So,
oh, yeah. How could I forget?
Yeah.
By the way, come on, Jimbo.
I know.
I mean,
I don't know where he goes. I don't know where he goes from. I mean, he leaves. I mean, he gets fired is what I just don't. Yeah, there's no.
I mean, the offense actually looked decent for them, especially compared to last year. But they are. What was the record? I think they were like 3-7 in their last 10 games against Power 5 schools.
Oh, yeah.
1-7.
Yeah, that stat that Ira loves refreshing every week when they lose.
I mean, not great, man. And he's 3 games worse than what Sumlin was during this stretch of their careers. Like, I think Jimbo's whatever he is. Yeah, he's got 3 less wins than Sumlin had through 65 games or whatever it's been. But, hey, man, Dion's doing it. Norvell's doing it. It's all good. It's all good vibes. It's all good vibes around here.
But you brought up Dion. I didn't want to bring back the umbrage games, but I have to take umbrage with one of our valued subscribers over at warchant.com who said he loves the show, loves you and me, but he just couldn't take the Travis Hunter Love Fest the other day. I went back and looked at it. We spoke about Travis Hunter for 2 minutes and 47 seconds. I rounded up to 3 minutes.
Okay.
And I think it was a 54-minute show.
Yeah.
So we spoke about him for 4% of the show.
He's also might be in New York with your quarterback.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like it's not just talking about him because you're scorned because he left, but he's a serious contender. I guess so is their quarterback out there, but I still think Travis Hunter would be the guy. He's a serious contender for the Heisman Trophy. And right now I would say it's Jordan, Travis Hunter, and the kid from Texas.
Oh, Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, are the 3 guys right now, but it's also September whatever it is, 12th. So we got a long time till any of it matters. But you're talking about one of the bigger stories in the country, along with Florida State, and that kid again, I think he played over 100 snaps again. Can you look that up real quick, and then we'll leave?
We're spending too much time on it.
Oh, you're right. Don't do it. I know that the starting offense for Florida State played 56 snaps, and I know that Jared Verse played 21, and that's really good to see because you're going to need them all for much later on in the season, you hope.
On the way out, to cleanse the palate, but not really, to give us a bitter pucker on our faces. College Football Power Index is here, Corey. The FPI.
The ESPN thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Florida State is the fifth most powerful team on the Power Index. USC's ahead of them. Georgia's ahead of USC. Ohio State's ahead of all of us. The Alabama Crimson Tide are number 1. They're 5 spots also ahead of the Texas Longhorns, who coincidentally defeated them in an actual competitive game of intercollegiate tackle football.
By multiple scores.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about that, if I had a formula, and it might be a great formula by the end of the year, who knows? But if I had a formula that nobody knows how these things are calculated, nobody. Right. You don't have to be that ethical if you're ESPN. I know the guy charting the numbers and spitting it out is like, look, man, Alabama's number 1. If I'm publishing that website, I'm like, well, we're not putting them number 1. So either we don't publish an FPI this week because we want to be taken seriously, or you're putting them at 9. Come up with some other formula. Add an X in there. So Alabama goes to 9. We can't have a team that just lost by 2 scores on their home field, number 1 in the country 2 weeks into the season. Where could that – how could that possibly be? Because now I can't take that thing not that I would anyway. I can't take that thing seriously for the rest of time. It's the formula that has the 1-1 team that just lost to Texas 9 spots ahead of Texas. Your formula sucks. Anyway, sorry.
Hopefully that wasn't a sucky show. We brought it for you, folks. Jeff Cameron Show coming up next, 1 to 3 o'clock over on Warchant TV, as well as 93.3 FM in Tallahassee terrestrial radio. Sunday Smash was last night. Check out the replay on that if you want something to tide you over between us and Jeff. Go to warchant.com. We'll have a press conference with Coach Norvell and the coordinators, 11:30 maybe?
That's usually what it is, yeah.
So we'll have that. And, hey, I think maybe we earned that thumbs up. So if you haven't done so, hit it on the way out. Subscribe to the podcast as well. We'll be back with more shows all week long because it's football season, and that's what we do. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thank you so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.